Traveler, Book 2, Starships. The year is 1977, and we're going to take a little trip backwards in time to when wargamers and tabletop role players weren't afraid of doing a little bit of physics at the table in order to get things right. Today, we are going to be doing a simple scenario, very similar to the last couple that we did. We've done one live stream. We've done one fumble through. We're getting a little bit better. So as you see, Saturn is down here in this bottom right-hand corner of the battlefield. We're going to play around with the effects of gravity today. We're going to see what that does to our plotting of movement and our planning. And what we have found in recent videos is that this game is easier than you think to plot the ship movement. The actual rules are easy to implement. It's the ramifications of those rules that is difficult because you have to start thinking 3-4 moves ahead. I've already experimented a little bit with our starship to make sure that he doesn't crash into Saturn. That's this dark line right here. Our starships use vector-based movement. The momentum from turn to turn carries over, and these dotted lines show what the gravity effects are. Saturn, really big planet. Even at a scale of 1 inch equals 2,000 miles, in the book, they call for 1 inch equals 1,000 miles. We're going to expand that a little bit, give ourselves a little bit more not breathing room, I guess you could call it, more room out there in space. Saturn has a diameter of 75 inches. Okay, so it's only 37 and a half for us, with a radius of about 19 inches. And then look at here, this is the effects of gravity. So you only have from that 38 to 39, that little 1 inch. This is where you have a full G, 1 Earth gravity, pulling you into the center of the planet. What does this line represent when it comes to a gas giant? Well, the dark line means it's dangerous. If you go in there, you're not going to be able to escape the gravity pull. Notice how these get closer and closer. Another ½ inch gives you 2 Gs. And since our starships only have like 1.5 to 3 Gs of thrust, you fall below that line, you go and die. Now, if you're in this line where you've got 1 G, that's where you can skim off the upper atmosphere, refuel your tanks. And then we also have, this band is 0.75, this band is 0.5, and the rest of the page is 0.25 inches of gravity in this direction. As for our scenario, we have a little tramp steamer down here, a little corsair, if you will, maybe a smuggler. He has been fleeing the authorities. He's low on fuel. He's trying to save money. And wouldn't you know it, as he approaches this gas giant, it's probably not Saturn. It's probably some alien planet somewhere else. It's the Law. They show up. At least one of them does. This is System Defense Boat 1. He comes in with 2 Gs of thrust on the same turn. The first turn, 2 Gs of thrust. For System Defense Boat 2, these are 200-ton ships. Our tramp freighter down there is 300 tons. Technically 400, but don't worry about it. We're kind of mixing and matching a few of the supplements to make this interesting. This second ship isn't going to come on until well, we don't know. We're going to roll some dice. At the end of every turn, or we'll say at the start of every one of their turns, the locals' turns, we're going to roll a d6. We're going to keep a running score. If that number is 15 or higher, then we'll bring on the System Defense Boat 2. They were patrolling, they noticed this ship, they've done all the hailing, this is the point at which they realize that this little game of cat and mouse has gone hot. All weapons are up. We're going to do things a little bit different with these guys. They now have beam lasers, which do not have the -1 die modifier, but they're under orders to take the tramp steamer alive. So they are going to be firing. They have a program called Select, and they're going to try to fire at the engineering. Now, there's no real rules that I can find in the book for what that means, other than if you have Select, you're going to be depending on how powerful the program is, and ultimately we're going to give them a -1. So they have -1 to hit, but if they hit, the way we're going to address this, according to the rules, the engineering is power plant, maneuver drives, and jump drive. Notice those are at the top of this chart. So I'm going to apply a -4 modifier to the damage rolls. It is a triple, so they'll do 3. I'll have to roll 3 times to find out what that is. And this allows for some, they're targeting engineering, and on an 8 or less, they'll succeed. But on a 9 or higher, it is possible they're still going to hit something like fuel, the hull, the hold, or the computer. These are all like non-kill hits, basically. Or could be. If you're out of fuel and you can't thrust out of the gravity well, that might be a problem. The pirates, on the other hand, the smugglers, they are in the same boat. They are not at all interested in killing anyone, so they're really going to be targeting the opposite. They're going to go the other way. Look, I don't want to hurt anybody. I'm just going to try to hit you in the computer to mess you up, so they're just going to roll on the standard table, in other words. And with all that out of the way, we can start plotting our movement for our little steamer down here. And that process is really quite simple. As I said, I'm doing this in half scale. So when you have 3 Gs of momentum, that's going to be 1.5 inches of movement in the direction of this arrow. This is the momentum carried over into the first turn of the game. However, notice that he is within that 0.5 gravities, so he's going to be pulled down, and it gets a little bit odd here, because normally those gravity lines will be perpendicular to the great circle, if you will. And in this case, it's hard to see exactly where that lies. I'm just going to drop it right here. And because we're in the 0.5, I'm going to drop it 1/2 inch to there. So this is where he would wind up if he wasn't thrusting at all. Notice that he's getting pulled closer and closer to the center of the planet. So he's going to apply some of his, and let me just check. I messed this up last time. He's got 1.5 Gs of thrust. And he sees his enemies coming on board the other direction. So he's going to try to, and he's going to rely on the gravity to pull him in. He's largely going to maintain his current heading. He pre-plotted this a long time ago, and by he I mean me, and he's going to give it a full, let's give it 2 Gs of thrust. He doesn't want to be going too fast, because his victory conditions are get inside this zone right here, end one turn in there, and then he can turn and just blast out of the system. So what that means is, and what I've found is easiest for this, draw a nice hard line that shows the actual path of travel. However, in this case, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to draw a line 1 inch long that is the actual vector. And as you can see, the total length of this line is 2.75. So I'm just going to write down 2.75. And on our next turn, that's going to be his direction of travel. We only have one other ship on the table. But because it is his turn still, he gets to take the first shot. And even though our defense boat is way over here, it's closer than 150 inches, 75 inches actually. This is, of course, 8.5 by 11. 2 of those sheets was only about 44 inches away. And we do have an accurate line of sight, which means we can take one shot. This is the ship's record that I have prepared. And you can see he's got maneuver drives of E. That's what gives him the 3 Gs of thrust. He is armored, so everybody gets an 8-up save. The system defense boats are armored as well. And I forgot, the last one of these I did live, Gunner 1 means that we have a +1 on our 2 hit. Now, normally you hit on 8s. We have 2 shots with triple pulse lasers. He's got 2 gunners. They both have 1s to hit. But the system defense boats are taking evasive action. That's a -2. We have a predict 2, so those cancel out. So our 8 to hit actually becomes a 7. The different colored dice are, it should be obvious what's going on here. So we're firing at System Defense Boat 1, and we get a miss and we get a hit. System Defense Boat now takes 3 points of damage, but I'm going to start by seeing if the armor intercepts any of that. On an 8 or better, so the armor intercepts 2 and then misses 1. So 1 point of damage will sneak through, and we roll, and we find that with a result of a 9, that damage is going to apply to the System Defense Boat 1's. A 9 means the fuel tank was hit. That does 20 points of damage to the fuel, if you will. He only has 8 tons of fuel left, and you burn 1 ton of fuel per turn, so he only has 8 tons of thrust. That's going to be really awkward for him. He's going to have to save some of that, and he can't come screaming in deep into the gravity well, that might be the best of all possible worlds. The system defense boats do not have fuel scoops, so he's in trouble. But he does have an opportunity to return fire. Now, the same rules apply, except our system, as far as the programs that they're running, our pirate has evade 2. Oh, but the defense boats have predict 2, so those cancel out. The defense boats have a gunner skill of 2, however, so they will be hitting on 6s. And as I said, so with a 7, he hits. I forgot, he has pulse lasers, so he's at a total of -3. He will only be hitting on 8s, whereas this guy with the beam lasers is hitting on 6s. He gets the hit, and that's going to mean 3 saves. So 1 successful save, 1 failed. So 1 shot gets through, and with a 9, that 1 shot is going to do damage to, remember, this is at -4, and anything less than that, it's going to hit the power plant, dropping the power plant from a G to an F. And when that happens, you have to check the ship's power table, which doesn't take long. A 400-ton ship with an F-type power plant can still maneuver at 3. So he's got drives of E, which allow him to maneuver at... look at that. He's actually only able to maneuver at 2G. So let me make that little adjustment here. 2G. Good news, I only did that to 2G for last turn. And that's the end of the shooting phase. Then our pirate says, wow, really, guys? I don't like that. I'm going to spend the money by dropping one of my 3 missiles. Now, that's the only one he's going to drop. He's going to fire it at System Defense Boat 1 to try to get it off his tail. And for this, we'll use a little blue. Actually, the other thing we could do, if we don't think we're going to change our heading at all, we can complicate their lives. Let's drop a sand first. So I'm going to write sand here. And sandcasters drop a little cloud of defensive particles that will interfere with any shots. Those do not have drives, so they will only follow you as long as you don't change directions. Let's find out if System Defense Boat 2 appears. No, but with a 6, that's a pretty good roll. Now, System Defense Boat 1 decides, I've only got 8 tons of fuel. I'm not going to use any of it. I'm just going to go ahead and drift in at my standard 2G. They have very good engines. They can accelerate or decelerate by up to 6G. He is in the 0.25, so he's going to drop in just a 1/4 of an inch. And then I think because part of that is going to be that he knows he's a better shot than his opponent. I do all of this to the nearest 1/4 inch. Oh, I should have done that by 1. And this particular line segment now is going to be about 1.5. Meaning System Defense Boat stops right there. And he says, oh, you want to trade missiles? I would be more than happy to trade missiles, but first, I'm going to take a shot at you. He's got the 1 cannon, it's a triple laser, so he takes a shot, and with a 9, he's going to get a hit. The enemy will block one of those shots, but not the other. And then, remember, this is the armor save of 8 or better. He blocks the other one. So 1 more point of damage. We roll for the hit location. We get a 4 this time. And that means, on a starship, a 4, we hit the jump drive, which might, from a narrative standpoint, be the ideal thing to hit. Because if you can knock his laser mount out, oh, that's the gig, this guy. He's got 2 guns you got to knock out. But if you can kill his jump drive, it was at E. Now it's at, I'll just put damage markers here. So he's taken 1 to the maneuver drive and 1 to the jump drive. Oh, I can take it off the clipboard so you can see it. There we go, see? So 1 damage to the maneuver, 1 to the jump drive. The jump drive goes from an E to a ABCD. I would not pass any drunk driving tests. And in a narrative game, if you are using this as an adjunct to a role-playing game, that could be really profound, because now, if your jump drive gets reduced from a jump 3 to a jump 1, you have to recalculate. And there's a whole set of rules for what the navigator has to do to reprogram. The Corsair does get to return fire, and he only gets one shot, and you only get to do this when you're shot at. He's going to hit. And again, he's got a triple laser, and the system defense boat is going to miss 1, 2. He's going to miss 2 of his armor checks. So he's going to take 2 shots. A 3 and a 9 is going to hit him in the... And I'm not going to show you every time, but just to give you an idea. It's going to hit his maneuver drive, and it's going to hit his fuel tank. He is now completely out of fuel. He's dead in the water, and he's in big trouble because he is going to crash right into the heart of Saturn. Sorry, guy. That's the last of his fuel. And curious, but we still have to keep him out there because he can fire shots until he's gone. Let me mark that off. Oh, no. What? Yeah, so he's down to no fuel. His jump drive... Oh, he doesn't have a jump drive. So what did I say? Oh, his maneuver falls from E to F. From F to E. And he says, well, oh, you know what? He can't launch a missile. In fact, the Sandcaster can't launch this turn either. I forgot about that. Because that takes a dedicated gunner, and I fired both of the beam weapons. So ignore the sand that I said. Unless I edited that out, in which case you haven't seen it, and you don't know what the heck I'm talking about. That does end the turn for this guy, and maybe he just launches those last 3 missiles. We'll find out in a little bit. For the Corsair's turn, we first write down our momentum, and now we have to measure to see where our ending point is. If the halfway point is what determines which of these 2 gravity bands you're in. As I said, it's 2.75, so we're pretty close, but since 3.5 to, let's see, if it was 3, it would be 1.5. It's a little bit less than that, so yeah, we are going to be in the 0.75. That means our perpendicular line here is going to be 0.75. And if we don't do anything, that's where we wind up. I think what we're going to do, since we only have a thrust of, it's been knocked down, it was at 2. He still has maneuver class E, but he's only got D class power. He does have a thrust of 2. Knowing that we are going to fall 0.75 in to the range band where we can skim. Let's blast the 2G to here. Ooh, now we're going to be moving at a pretty steady clip here, which could be dangerous. And this is where you might want to check. This is a 4 inches in about that direction. So that 4 inches will put our heroes into Saturn, except they're going to fall another inch. So this is not a good situation here. We definitely want to make sure that we're turning more like this so that it slows us down and keeps us that little extra half inch out of the danger zone. This is not a game where you want to take that particular highway. So that being the case, our new location is, see the line here, I go to the nearest 1/4 inch. That is 3.75 inches long. And wouldn't you know it, we're getting faster as we get closer to the surface of the planet. That's to be expected. We do get to take some shots, and we're going to hold off this time. We are because we know. We have perfect knowledge. In a role-playing game, we might not know what got hit on that vessel over there, and that might be part of the fun of a scenario like this, that you have to deduce, hey, he's still falling in. We must have done something really bad. Now, I will suggest that the system defense boat, before he drops into the 0.5, maybe if you're outside the 0.5 gravities, or you can launch a lifeboat. But for now, we're just gonna go full kamikaze. So we can take one shot at him. We don't know what's going on. We take the shot. We hit him. He's got 3 saves for damage. He's going to pass one of them. He's only going to pass one of them, so he's going to take 2 points of damage. And with another 9, well, he's out of fuel, so that won't do any good. But the 5 hits the computer, which means we're going to have to start checking to see whether or not he can do anything that he wants to do. For example, he has a program called Return Fire. He needs to roll a 2 or a 3 in order to return fire. So he does. Now he needs to interact. And on a 5-3, he gets a 2. You need a 1 or better. So he can fire back. Can he predict? I think I'm doing this right. He can't predict, though. The computer's on the fritz. So he doesn't get the +2 that he normally does. And can he select? He can select. Okay, so that means where normally he was sitting on a 6, he's hitting on an 8 now because he lost that particular program. I don't know if that's permanent, but it does make the difference between a hit and a miss. Oh, except he doesn't want to fire at all. He wants to launch a missile. We'll do that next time, I guess. He has decided to wait until the vessels get close enough. Since our guy here is going to be... He's got to be feeling pretty good about where he's at. We're just going to hold off. I was going to drop some sand, but that's expensive. I got to think about tomorrow. And since we're going to be making some pretty extreme... No, let's drop sand. I want to know what happens. So the second object is to drop sand, and we're done with his part of the turn. We'll kick on over to the system defense boats way back up here. System defense boat 1 has no fuel. So he automatically falls towards the planet the 1.5 inches. The midway point is still in the 0.25 gravity range band, so he falls straight down to the planet, and that gives him a total length of 1.75. It's maybe a little shorter than that, but we round it up. He's going to try to launch that missile, and the way we're going to do missiles this time, so he gets an 8, or a 9 rather, which means his computer still works. It malfunctions on a 2 or a 3. The missile has 5 turns of fuel, so I've written down M5. And this time, I'm going to have the missiles following a fairly dumb program. Every turn that their target is on the board, they're going to blast. They have 6G straight for. They're going to turn. Well, we'll figure out what their momentum does. And then we're going to aim them straight for the adversary and blast 3 inches in that direction. That's it for their turn. I guess I should roll for the system defense boat with a result of a 5. They're going to be at a, let's see, they were at 6-11. He may be showing up pretty quick. Our honest businessman might be in a little trouble. Let's see if I calculated movement right. He is going to move a total of 3.75 inches, which lands him right here. All right, now he's also going to suffer the effects of gravity. 1 inch. That drags him to right here, and he dies, except he has a total thrust value of 2, so he can reverse. He can blast straight up to there. And that puts him right there. The sand, of course, does not have thrust. It's going to drop into Saturn, and I guess I waited a little too long. Oops. So let's retcon that so we can see what actually happens with sand. He'll launch it next turn. He is now moving at 4.25, and this is how the natural math of this game and process leads to slingshots. As he gets closer, he's going to speed up. As he gets outwards, so if we followed that curve all the way around, he would be hauling. And then eventually he would be going so fast he would start leaving the planet behind. And we'll see that a little bit here. He sees a missile coming at him and decides, I'm going to fire both of my shots at that missile. And he gets 1 hit on the missile. And that's going to destroy it, I think. You have an additional -2, so that's kind of a long shot. You need the 10 in order to hit. Yeah, so the missile goes bye-bye. Checking for reinforcements. We get a 1, taking the total up to 12. He does not appear this turn. On the next turn, he'll appear on a 3 or higher. The missile detonated from long-range fire, but our system defense boat is going to continue dropping in So there's 1 inch along the previous vector. And that, I got it. I almost did it. I almost used the wrong one. We go 1.75, and then because we are in the 0.5 range band, we'll go another 1/2 inch down here. And it's a badly decaying orbit, but we should measure and see what his new speed is. Let's call it, it's about halfway between 2 and 2.5. Let's just call it 2.0. And he's going to, as he's dropping, he's got a total of, let me check, he's got 3 missiles altogether. So we'll launch another missile here, M5. Well, but I got to roll because remember his computer is kind of on the fritz. And we get an 8 minus 3 is 5, so he gets that off. That's the end of the turn. And once you get comfortable with it, this moves pretty darn quick, doesn't it? Our hapless smugglers are going to blast 4.25 to here. And then they're going to drop 1 in. But they have a total thrust of, well, this is, you know what I've done wrong here. And this is the interesting thing about this system. The 1G should only have dropped him back a 1/2 inch here. So if he had blasted up 1 inch to here, we'll put it close enough, then his new heading would have been something more along the lines of this. He's still moving 4.25, but on this heading, he's got a little bit more breathing room. And not only that, but as he drops back the 1/2 and speeds up to 1, he's going to wind up here. And like that, this particular, so he would have stopped there. This particular length is going to be 4. And just as you would expect, if you are a fan of gravity and, you know, Sir Edward Newton, what's his name? Sir Newton? What was Newton's first name? I can't remember. See how he was 4.25 and now he's to 4. He's going to be slowing down despite doing a full burn in this direction. Hey, we got another missile coming at us. I think the missile has another, I think it was like a -2. Take both shots. Needing 10 or better. We miss on both of them, but since we didn't shoot at the system defense boat, we can check for reinforcements. And we get it. So this other defense boat is going to come on the table with an 18, and we have to plot his movement as well. I will use the same color, and just as before, he's starting out with a total thrust of 2 Gs in this direction. He's going to drop in, and I think I cheated a little bit here. He's going to drop in that 1/4 G. We'll drop him something like that. But since he has a full thrust of 2 more G, he can actually swing around this way. And he's going to have to, because you don't want to come in to, it's all a mystery, isn't it? There he is. Here he comes. I think these were too long by too much because I keep forgetting that I'm doing a half an inch. So this 0.5 G pull would only be a 1/4 inch, and that's what you see here, this 1/4 inch. At the end, he started at 2 Gs, and the little correction he made, he's still going to be moving at 2.0 G. And he will move as well. We have to do the same thing. Mayday, mayday, mayday. He is going to be moving in this direction, 2 centimeters, 2 inches, I should say. And then gravity is going to pull him. So it's a 0.5. It's going to be that 1/4 inch this time. We'll get it right. A little bit of a weird gravity anomaly. There must have been a passing black hole or something. And then he'll launch the last of his missiles. Or will he? Let's say that he punches out, he's got a lifeboat, and at that point, that ship is no longer a threat. But this missile is. This missile will also drop 2 inches and then to here, but that missile has a total thrust of 6, which means it can take a beeline straight on towards our heroes. And that missile is going to launch itself, like I said, all 6 Gs. takes it 3 inches, it's going to stop right here. And this is going to be very interesting, I think, on subsequent turns, because it looks like by gutting it out, our little tramp there, our smuggler, so that missile is actually going to wind up right here. With a total speed of, it's probably going to crash into the planet. Yeah, got 5.0. It'll be interesting to see how it pulls out of that mess. And this guy is also going to launch this other defense boat. He's going to launch a second missile to give our heroes plenty to think about. And remember, those missiles do have a -4 on their defense die. The smugglers now get to go. And with a momentum of 4, last turn's speed will take them to there. They're now on the 0.75, so we'll give it somewhere between 1.5. There we go. And then he says, well, I don't like that missile there. Let's blast out another 2 Gs and wind up right here. He's trying to hook as high up into the orbit as he can. He wants to be well away from Saturn as quickly as possible. And this line segment for this movement is going to be a total, well, let me flip this around so you can see. That will have a total length of 4.25. Despite having 2 full Gs of acceleration, he only speeds up by 0.25. And I'm writing inches here. That's not total Gs. That's just total momentum. This guy bails out. We know he's not a threat. So should we take a couple of shots over here, or should we launch a missile? Let's take a couple of shots. If we could just trade a couple of shots with him, we might be able to get away. Maybe we can knock out his weapon system so he can't fire at us. The 8 will be a hit on the ship, and that ship will have to make 3 saves. He misses, and with his last save, he also misses. The armor didn't do him much good, so we roll for 3 hit locations. We get a 6 and a 5 on System Defense Boat 2, and that's going to hit his computer and his hull. So this guy now is at a -3. And his hull doesn't really do a whole lot. We got 1 more to hit to check. And on a result of an 8, it's going to hit his hold. And he doesn't really have anything worth speaking of at his hold. So that's going to be that. Then, since our smugglers did not launch a missile, I don't need to worry about this guy because he bailed. I do need to worry about this guy. Let's see what he does first, and then we'll do the missiles last. We'll do human supremacists here. We're not going to worry about what the bots do until after we know what the humans do. His momentum takes him to here, and the gravity takes him to here, and he's in trouble because he's now headed even steeper into the planet. So he says, I'm going to use 1.5 thrust to take me to right here. 1.5 inches. That's all 3 inches of his thrust. And that's going to put him with a total line distance of 3.25. So he's cutting the path of his buddy, 3.25. And then we can do the missile. So as you can see, our missile is headed in the wrong direction at a frightening rate of speed. At 5 inches, it's going to wind up deep in the planet. Or is it? Its momentum will take him to here. But remember, he still has that 6G of thrust, so he can rip it all the way up to here, which I think if we check to see where he is, he'll arc around, and he's only going to fall back that 0.75, which would drop him to about there. And so this is 1 turn. His second turn will put him right about there. So we put the 0 on his old position. Here's his new position. And so he's moving in this direction at a speed of 4.25. Does he have enough fuel to make the corner? I don't know. Let's find out. With nobody firing, you know, I forgot. System Defense Boat also has a missile. And that missile is going to have a momentum that will take it to here. It's going to drop to here. And it's going to move all 3 inches straight for... Oh, he launched that last turn. It won't move until the next turn. We're still doing... I think I got confused here. We did 1 turn, 2 turns. He did 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he came on turn 3, 4. And then we traded shots. We moved the missile, and I think we're back to this guy's turn. He launched the missile, and now we're back to here. I think I might have blown that one completely. You guys will have to forgive me if that's the case. At 4.25, we're going to be right here. And we're going to be well into the 0.5, so he will drop back to there. And with a 1-inch thrust straight out of the system, he's going to make a break for it, and he's going to want to have as much thrust as possible. He should be able to get away from the system defense boats, even if they have a significant advantage in thrust. Better engines, but if you're facing the wrong way, it's not going to matter. And they're pretty close. Oh, I think that missile might be a problem for him. They are not going to open fire. They're just running for it now, which means the system defense boats can go. And he's moving 3.25. We're not killers. We're just smugglers. And I got to use the right one. The 3.25 in that direction. Let me use, I don't know that I like that ruler. Here is 3.25 to there. I don't know that you guys can see the distances. I was hoping the clear one would work a little better. And then we are still in the 0.25, so we line this up and we drop another 1/4 of an inch. And then he says, but I want to, he's trying to get, so he's here now. Does he want to slow down, or does he want to vector up with his 1.5 inches to try and swing around and catch the guy? I think in the long term, that's probably his best bet. So from here to here, we'll give him a speed of 3, like so. And I know that's a little bit off. It's okay. And I know for some reason my marker, man, picked up way too much blue. It's looking dark. Hopefully it shows up a little bit better for you. The next thing, and I suppose I should connect these here, show you what the thrust was, is this distant missile over here. We'll do the one that I don't think is going to have much of an effect. Well, let's do the one that the camera is on first, okay? We did have a missile here, and that missile will follow suit with the ship from the last turn. He's going to drop to here and then to here, and then it's got a total of 3 inches of maneuver, and that means it's going to be able to use those to go kapow. Now, with electronic countermeasures, our heroes can knock it out with a 7 or better, and they do, so that doesn't have any effect. But this missile is still on the prowl, and it's still locked onto its target. So it's still going to move 4.25 inches, which will take it, so I got this on the 1, I got to go to 5.25 to here. It's going to drop in half of 0.75, we'll call that something like that. You don't have to be too precise, just somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2. And then it's going to use all 3 of its thrust to try to get closer to its target. Oh, and we said it's going to make a beeline for its target too, right? It doesn't have the same appreciation for orbital mechanics that we do. And I like that because it means that I can show you that with all 3 inches of its thrust, it's going to be able to slow down to here to about 1.25. That is its 1/2 thrust. At this point, I think the game ends. Our heroes are going to rocket off the screen and to safety. I'm not even going to measure it because they're untouched. Bad fire. They got lucky on that first hit against the first system defense boat. The really good shooting and very cinematic, I think, despite the fact that we're using real-world mechanics or real science fiction-y mechanics. Because this, I do want to track out. Let's see where this missile winds up. He's only going to move 1.25 inches. So that would put him about here. He'll drop in that 1/3 of an inch, and he'll blast 3 inches straight for in the direction which our heroes were last seen headed. So it's actually going to be able to reverse course with 6G of thrust. That'll kick you in the teeth, man. That'll get you moving. He's only moving with a speed of 1.75, and then on his last thrust, he will move. Did I account for? Yeah, I accounted for the gravity. So he'll be at 1.75, and on his last turn of thrust, the 1.75 will take him to here. He'll drop back in about somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4. So drop to there, and then he says, "But wait, I'm coming, Beanie Boy," and he'll blast 3 again in the same direction that his prey was last seen moving, and it'll wind up blasting in that direction with a speed of 4.5. Bear in mind, it's probably never going to hit its target after those 5 because it doesn't have any more fuel left. Maybe it has just enough fuel. If it gets within 1/4 of an inch, it'll still detonate and the shrapnel will do some good. But it will be slowed down for the next few turns. So that's going to allow our heroes to get away, even if it did have enough maneuver jets to get to close that last 1/4 of an inch. And what about this guy over here? So he could still pursue, and he could still trade shots. And this is where the genius of the game comes in. The fact that we still have a situation where he's facing the wrong direction, he's dropping in, but he's got a full 2 inches of thrust, or 1 inch of thrust, 2G, means he's going to take this wide swinging arch. And what is that? 2.75? So the system defense boat, even though he has completely zoomed past his prey, they're only separated by about 10 inches right now. He is going to be able to continue his wide swinging turn, and as he does so, he can keep firing away. He will be at -1 to each of his rolls, but he may even say, you know what, I'm going to let him go. It's more important. You know, if I stop shooting, he'll stop shooting, and you know, just admit when you've lost. Save the system defense boat. He has to go pick up his friend who's now floating in a lifeboat that's in its steadily decaying orbit. That doesn't sound very safe to me. Decay is not a good thing. Even if he wanted to go after his prey, like this is the kind of vectors that you draw, and after 1, 2, 3 turns of trying to turn around, he's still headed in the wrong direction at a speed of 1.75. So he's multiple turns away from even being able to get into pursuit. He says, I got to go rescue my fellow pilot. We lost a multi-million-dollar boat. That's not good, but hey, cut your losses when you can. So that is another example of how Traveler's vector-based space combat works really well in practice, particularly when you've set yourself up with a nice, simple scenario. Now, there are a lot of things we got to change down here, but as for me, I thought this was a delightful little puzzle. Like I said at the beginning of this video, it took me 4 tries. I had to plot this out a number of times. See, look, here's my first one. Oh, what if he's coming in this way? He's going to die because he's not going to be able to get out of of that orbit. You got to come into a lower orbit. Okay, I'll come in here. And in this case, he was coming in at a total of 3G of speed. But again, he was still a little too steep. I couldn't make the pull out without having serious issues over here. So finally, on about my fourth try, I said, yeah, just let gravity do its thing. Save your energy, save your fuel, and then start kicking yourself out when you get a little bit too close to Saturn. He actually spent 2 turns scooping up fuel. So in a tabletop game, one thing you could do is say every turn you spend in this band nets you another, I don't know, 25, 50 tons of fuel, maybe 2d6 times 5 every turn. So, hey, look at that. There's 60 tons of fuel. And then the second turn, we were able to pick up another 4. That's 100 tons of fuel. That's pretty good. If you don't have anybody there, you could, of course, just laze around and pick up all the fuel you want. But this gives you another randomized victory points so that it's not just the same thing every time. The system defense boats, they because they're swooping in, they're only going to get that one shot. But I think the big thing, I touched on this earlier. Let me close the loop on this. In the non-miniature rule set, what did Mark Miller say? He said you could just decide that they're going to trade 5 rounds of combat. And what did we have here? 5 rounds of combat. We launched 3 missiles. We traded about a half a dozen shots. And in the end, the ship that was trying to get away got away. That tells me that the non-miniatures version of the combat does a pretty good approximation. It's not the same. You won't get the same results. You won't get these little details like our heroes didn't fire a single missile. These guys spent a lot of money. Maybe they lost a pilot. Maybe they didn't, depending on, the characteristics of the system that our smugglers were active in. They may decide that revenge is more important than their buddy, and they may be firing every single turn until you get 75 inches away. And you can approximate that. If at a full burn, this 10 inches is going to open up by another 2, 6, by another 8, 10 turns. So you're only about 2 more turns away before this guy is simply too far back and he won't be able to catch up. So maybe you say, yeah, we'll just exchange 2 more shots and then we'll call it a day. Fun game, really interesting. I'm surprised this fell by the wayside so quickly. I'm surprised more people don't play with these ideas. Till next time, I'm praying for you.